David Thornberry. He is the author of 28 poetry chapbooks and is a painter and a poet alternating between the two art forms. He received his MFA from Kent State University, and he continues to make and show art, both literary and visual, in the Austin area. David also teaches art at Austin Community College and the Dougherty Art Center. And without further ado,
We even practiced that, Dougherty, before. That's a tough one. Thank you guys very much for coming out. This is really nice. Thank you so much. What Joe and I decided to do, I really admire this guy's poetry. He's one of my favorite poets ever in the world. So I really decided, you know, got this great resource, right? So what Joe and I are going to do is, I'm going to read a couple, he read a couple, I'm going to read a couple, and then we're going to alternate. We're going to do this popping up and down out of these chairs thing where I read one, he reads one, I read one, he reads one. Just because I don't want this to be all about me, because he's great. So I'm just going to read a couple just to let you guys, if you don't know what my work feels like, get a feel for it, and then we'll go from there. I think a lot about physics. It's just the way I look at the universe. I put everything in kind of physics terms even, so this is one of the ones I was thinking about one day. Entropy means that everything is constantly trying to come apart. The universe wants to even itself out, to make everything and everywhere the same. Smooth away mountains, fill in canyons, level out and settle down into a lukewarm brown molecular soup. Entropy is why you don't see those old-timey bicycles around anymore. The big front wheel got smaller and the little back wheel got bigger until both wheels were the same size. Let's see here. This is a lot of my poetry is about three things, really: nature, my wife Kathy, or dogs. This is about her. Order out of chaos. Finally, I throw the goddamned extension cord across the yard. Infinite loops of rubberized tangle, curling in and out, back on itself. Three-pronged malevolence. I don't care anymore if these Halloween lights ever go up. And my wife walks, glides over and picks it up, says, "It's okay, just let me do it. You get out the skeletons." Just for a second, I try to quiet the frantic weasel of my male mind and stand in reverence of the clarity and calm of these angel saints called women. Here's one more before I sit down. This is about a. I always argue with myself about this poem because there's something in it that always bothers me, but anyway. It's about a homeless woman I saw one day. I was at the red light just long enough to see the homeless woman on the traffic island. Her skin and her hair the same dirty burnt color. Try to get the yo-yo she uses in lieu of a cardboard sign to sleep, and possibly make a dollar bill or two appear from a car window. To sleep, to spin without rising or falling at the bottom of the throw, sit there and spin until recalled upward with the flick of the wrist. But it wouldn't, and when it didn't, once, twice, a third time, she yelled, "Son of a bitch!" and swung the string and yo-yo down fiercely onto the concrete, crack smashing the yo-yo into 5 or 10 chunks of sparkly plastic. And there was something so dignified, something so brave and necessary about that crack and smash, about her choice not to quietly suffer the slings and arrows of her lack of skill or a finicky yo-yo, that made me give her $10, that made me proud of her, proud of all of us. Whenever I read that poem, I always wish I'd given her more money. I always say, $10, I would think. Okay, so yeah, so Joe and I are just going to alternate. Let's just do like 1, 2, whatever you feel like.
Yeah, okay. Boy, it's a hard one to follow, isn't it? I'm just going to jump in with another newish one that has very little relation. It's called Another Trip to the Museum, and it's subtitled very pretentiously Blériot et the Pterosaur en français. Then somewhere short of Dover's white cliffs, if the mainmast had broken, strength sacrificed for weight, and the strain of each guy wire taking turns to cleave along wood's grain, tense wires braiding themselves together and unsupported wings folding like a falcon in mid-dive or an origami crane. You've seen kites do this, but probably never an aeroplane. So no string to shore up or fine finger twitch of pterodactyl spread skin to catch a stray thermal to save itself from the cold gray waves. It's Icarus on an overcast, oddly chill July day as the tracking ships gaze on, helpless while wood wire and silk crumple to the channel's bed, and under the pressure of seawater and mud, and millions of years later ends up as something like the pterosaur on the 3rd floor. Embedded in sediment, solid minerals still somehow conveying its lightness. The way those long phalanges fingered the air like an encompassing keyboard, relentless glissando's pure muscle memory playing its airs. The bones alone tell us we don't need the accompanying illustrations to understand that this was a creature of the skies. Our mind's eyes smooth it out and back into 3 dimensions obvious beyond archaeology. And how can we help but turn from the wall to the glassed-in ceiling with the desire to fill the space above us, to feel no floor beneath us when our gaze fixes on the enormous eyebolts embedded in still beams and follows down the cables to Monsieur Blériot's monoplane that did not crash into the sea, but crossed the channel safely that July over 100 years ago. The sun through glass illuminates dust upon gossamer wings. Even so, how can we believe this machine has ever touched the ground? So I probably should have prefaced, Blériot made these gorgeous and gorgeously simple monoplanes when everybody else, like the Wright Flyers and things were biplanes. So a single monoplane, and he was the first to fly across the English Channel. He did not crash. And then pterosaurs, of course, are the winged reptiles.
By the way, this whole thing tonight is about, I have a new book out. It's called Climb Down.
Get it.
And it is for sale back there on the table. And I would, each one of them has a hand-painted, individualized cover. And I'll sign it, which makes it infinitely more valuable. And anyway, they're back there. But yeah, these are chapbooks. If you guys aren't familiar with the form, chapbooks are, maybe someday when I'm a big boy poet like Joe, I'll have an actual published book. But these are just homemade little desktop things, and they're fun. I've been doing them since forever. And this is my latest. So let's see what we got here. I am not like Basho, like Isa, awake all night, gazing appreciatively at the full moon. I see the beauty of the pale yellow glow against the midnight sky, but born in 1957, raised with television, I look up tonight and I see the opening credits of The Honeymooners. I see Jackie Gleason's face, those big round eyes, that mocking smile. Let's read this one. This is that one that, remember I asked you about a while ago about the 3 Mexican city workers.
Oh, yeah.
I incorporated your changes, but not completely. But they were helpful changes, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. 3 Mexican city workers, cowboy boots, hard hats, orange and yellow vests, are taking turns trying to pull loose a jackhammer that has become wedged in a huge block of cement they were trying to break up. 2 guys stand and watch, wipe off sweat and wait their turn, while the 3rd guy pulls and yanks. Hijo de puta, chingada. The shape of the jackhammer prevents 2 men from pulling at the same time. The very heavy tool doesn't move at all, is preternaturally stuck. But with some sweat, persistence, and the blessing of heaven, by lunch break, one of these trabajadores, one of these working guys, will have pulled that sword from that stone, will have become the new king of England.
Okay, speaking of roads and streets then, one of my aesthetic choices is to write about what people may not automatically see as quote-unquote poetic. So I write a lot about machines and the things I like, but also with the idea that we see more beauty in them. So this is Hot Rods on Congress Avenue for the Lone Star Roundup 2015. Sporting big damn camshafts with so much overlap between intake and exhaust that they can hardly idle. Green light comes as sweet relief. Engines rev up, belt-driven superchargers whine air into multiple carburetors. Headers resonate in tinny rattles. Clutches engage. The cars jump, barely rolling before clutches disengage. So the cars coast, lest they hit 80 miles per hour before the next stoplight. Roaring, then purring, roaring, then purring, all the way south to Old Tarf.
Thank you. Yeah, I incorporated your blessing of heaven idea. So the idea here, well, what climb down? Why this is called climb down? It matters. So I'll tell you. There's a film called Touching the Void. If you've never seen it, it's pretty amazing. Mountain climber. I won't bore you with the whole story, but a mountain climber years and years ago had a climbing accident, fell off the mountain. Actually, his rope was cut and he fell off the mountain. And when he fell, he went into a crevasse, which was a gigantic ice valley, essentially. And he couldn't climb out, and he had a broken leg, and he was going to die at the bottom of this thing. So he decided, well, I'll climb down. This thing might have a way out down. So to get out, he went deeper into the hole. And I found that to be a very useful way to live sometimes. There are ways to illustrate this idea, like Kathy came up with one time. You have a cup of coffee, the coffee gets cold, you forgot about it. Make it even colder, add ice to it, make iced coffee. So you climb down. So I think it's quite useful sometimes. So that's why this book is called Climb Down. All the poems are not about that, it just happens to be what I was thinking about at the time. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of words in this will be fun. Amen to artillery, Art Nouveau to Beetle. When I was a kid, my dad bought us the full set of Collier's Encyclopedia, Beeville to Burmese, Burnap to Charm. 24 volumes, expensive for Dad at the time. Electron gun to Fisher, Fiscus to Germanicus. It was important to my dad that we were educated kids, infinity to Katmai. Bullshitted essays, fluffed up books reports from the big black books with red and gold trim. Number to Phrygia. Had them around the house for years, and I learned a lot, but little by little the books went away to wherever everything from childhood goes. Renner to Sibelius. All these years later, and now we have the internet, bigger and better and brighter and faster than all the encyclopedias my dad could ever have afforded. I can look up anything I want about anything I want, just about anywhere I want. I spent 2 hours yesterday watching UFO videos and 2 more looking at pictures of abandoned amusement parks. Don't tell my dad. USA 'tis working.
So here's a poem I translated from the Japanese, 13th, 14th century, somewhere in there, called Old and at Home on a Saturday Night. The neighborhood dogs, so noisy, relentless, my ornery adolescent, will you please stop barking? His brand new mohawk bristles, push broom across the patio, unable to separate moonlight from concrete.
Wow. I bought it.
I did too.
I'm sorry.
Lion sack of shit.
Yeah, I am a
I'm like,
liar.
how many languages does this guy speak?
He's like that.